This is the Vendi Sales Podcast, hosted by Kyle Jagger. Real conversations, sharp insights, and practical tools to help you close smarter and build teams that win.
Welcome back to another episode of the Vendi Sales Podcast. I'm Kyle Jagger, your host, and today I am happy to welcome our guest, Emily Murray, VP of Sales. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Absolutely.
So, me and Emily had the awesome opportunity to meet each other at our Sales Leadership Heroes event, Mike Weinberg's Sales Leadership event in Atlanta. I think, 2025, April or so.
Yep.
She had some coworkers with her, and we just kind of started getting chatting, and was just a lot of synergies between our appreciation of Mike's work, plus how we've kind of implemented it in our current or past companies. So I thought she'd be an awesome guest to bring on and just talk sales leadership and all good things sales.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, for sure. Why don't you just high level give a brief overview of like who you are, why you're here today, what you've achieved, and
Sure. Well, I'm sales through my whole career. I started out of college with a home builder, top 5 national home builder, and that's kind of where I it was my training ground for sales. It was my first role. It was a full commission sales role. It's where I really grew to have an appreciation for the sales process and salespeople. It's where I learned how much fun they are and what an amazing opportunity is to make life-changing money and to truly be a service, to customers. So I was there for several years, about a handful, and met with great success there. And then I transitioned in outside sales, a company called Cintas Corporation. And that was truly an outside sales role. So it was a hunter role, beat the streets, go find the business, sell it, and then hand it off to someone who would grow the account like an MDR. And that was a really different experience and really just kind of added to the stack of my sales skills from what I had. I had a really strong foundation, but that was the next level for me. And again, I met with success there. I was able then to move on to uniform rental sales from the traditional sales program. Great training there as well. Both companies, great training. And then after that, I took a little break with my kiddos. I have 5 kids. One of my kids at the time was diagnosed with a syndrome. And so my husband and I made a choice that, one of us needed to be there and get him to those appointments. So I took a brief break there, and it was a gift of time with my family. And then when I came back to work, when he started getting the services in kindergarten, I returned to home building. It was a really cool homecoming. And I started with the company I am now in a corporate trainer role. So I got to train every sales associate who came through the company on the sales process and how to meet with success in that role. And it was a huge privilege, and I loved that. And then I transitioned to sales management, and then after that, director of sales, and now VP.
amazing. In Canada, I guess the uniform sales is not as commonly or as widely known as in America, where that's like, hey, if you want to learn sales and get training, go there and you're gonna get it. What was that like? What was that experience? What was that setup?
It is what I think most people imagine when they think of outside sales. It's so that new business rep, the one who's going and recruiting new business, so spotting the accounts, calling on them or cold calling, walking in the business, finding the decision maker, giving them your spiel. It was the 3-2 spiel. I still remember it because we just did it on repeat every day. 3 businesses that you partner with us in the area, 2 benefits. And then, we would go through our sales process if we could right then or set that appointment. It was really that traditional outside sales hunter role. And it is not, I don't know what you imagine when you think about outside sales, but it's probably what you'd be thinking of. A lot of no's. I remember one time I got a little bit aggressive trying to get in front of a decision maker. And I think I got yelled at, cussed at, spit on in front of a lot of people. I escaped the punch in the face, but I was close. I still got that account. I went back the next day. And I did get that account, and you'd be surprised. He looked at me, and it's almost like he didn't remember the day before. It was a learning lesson. It was really, really great learning lesson. Kind of that lesson of it's not about you. Maybe he was having a bad day, and to go back. But it was an excellent training grounds for a sales professional. And so I think that's why you mentioned a moment ago, it is a well-respected industry here, and it's an industry that is highly recruited from. So companies like Cintas, Aramark, they're known to have a solid training program. So a lot of med device will recruit where they're more training on the product and not on the sales process. So they'll go hire trained salespeople from companies like Cintas, and I get why. It's a world-class training program. But yes, it was fun, competitive. There was the bull pit. We're all sort of in that bullpen where you're in there calling on our sales meeting started at 7:15 on Monday morning. We were done by the golden hours at 8:00, and we'd be on the phone blocking until noon, and then we'd hit the streets. And that was the only day we weren't out in our cars by 8 a.m., if not earlier. But those golden hours we really protected. So it was awesome. It was a hard role and wildly rewarding. That's when something is rewarding, right? Not when it's easy street. But yeah, it was awesome.
And now you're essentially helping build training programs and roadmaps for the reps that you and your managers oversee. Is that kind of true?
Yeah. So I think when I was in the sales manager role, you're really the driver of performance. So you are on site with the sales team helping to get those results. Those sales managers, that sales team, they are the drivers of revenue. So that's the sales manager role. The director role is really trying to get consistency, across the markets, I would say, across the whole company. And so that was my role then, was to make sure we were getting consistency and running the playbook across all divisions. And now in this role, the VP role, you're more so building the systems and the structure and setting the standards for the company. And that includes all those things. You mentioned training. So that's a part of a structure or a system that would make a company successful. So yes, that is one of my favorite things I get to do now. But yes, yeah.
What you said, kind of the sales managers, especially in the way you guys are set up, they actually really help drive revenue through their reps, and that's kind of their main goal, right? Where, hey, a lot of smaller companies, especially ones I'm working with, right? That manager role, that director role, that VP role are essentially one role. Like that's the sales manager's job. What kind of things are your sales managers like? What does their day-to-day look like? Because they get to be laser focused on that, drive revenue through their people. So that's kind of a really cool use of time where they can just put all their energy into that and not get sucked into the things that, your directors and VPs are getting sucked into. It's like, what does their day look like?
And I think that's a good point, because that system matters a lot, that structure, that they have the support so they can stay focused on the highest value activities, which is being drivers of revenue, and accountability and some coaching in there. But there's a couple of like key components or buckets of their role. I would say the day-to-day looks different. That's one of the greatest things both about sales and about sales management is no 2 days are the same. But they spend a lot of time in the field in one-on-ones. And so they're doing that in the afternoons. Often they're out in the models with the sales team, observing appointments, coaching, training, supporting. And then they're in one-on-ones. There's accountability meetings. We get some coaching in ours too. And then there's Friday practices. So, you've got practice time where you're spending some time with your sales team, getting reps in on the sales process. That's critical. And that's sacred time. So everywhere is going to be everywhere in this company. No matter where you go, if it's a Friday morning, that sales team's in a practice. So they do focus a lot on that. So that retraining of the sales process and getting consistency in the playbook, that's really important. That's how we get our results. If you focus on those things, the numbers sort of take care of themselves. So they spend a lot of time in that. But the most important things that they could be doing is being in the field with their team. There's a ton of other stuff that they can get sucked into. they're not, immune to that. There's paperwork, there's desk work, there's projections, there's all of the meetings, marketing, there's backlog meetings. But the highest, best use of their time, highest value, best use is going to be out in the field with their team. And that's where they spend the majority of their time.
And do they do, like when you say out in the field with their team, are there different aspects to that? Is there like observing? Is there actively participating? Like what does that actually entail? Everyone says, hey, get out with your team, but
yeah.
what does it actually mean?
It varies depending on what's going on, but being out with the team for us, so we're not, outside sales where we're driving to accounts. Generally, we're in a model home with, customers if we're a salesperson. We might be in a model home without customers where we're preparing for appointments or doing some prospecting, so phone blocking, maybe working with our realtor partners. So that's the sales team. The sales manager, when they're out there, they could be shadowing appointments for sure. Maybe it's a sales counselor who is in training or needs support. Maybe they're promoted, but they want some support and to sort of level up. So the sales manager will spend time with them, observing an appointment. We also have that the one-on-ones are a time-consuming piece, right? So if you have 7, 9 sales counselors and you're going to meet with them every other week, that's a big spend of your time, and preparing for that one-on-one so that it is productive is also a spend of time. They'll usually do that in the morning before the sales team's out in the field. So they knock that out before the golden hours for them being out in the field when the team is out there. And so they'll be out there for one-on-ones and that are well prepared for. There's other pieces of the role too. We've got market homes and communities that they need to make sure sell themselves. So they might be going and driving through and making sure that the quality control is there. They may shop the competition. There are there's events that we prepare and that they participate in to drive traffic. So there are a lot of pieces, and that varies on the day and the month. But the most important piece is being with the team. And to your point, yes, it could even be rolling up their sleeves and prospecting with them. You might have a salesperson who's really struggling to make the calls, or maybe they're making the calls, but the quality isn't there. Our sales managers could roll up their sleeves and sit there and make calls with them. So it depends. It depends on the day, but all of those things.
Yeah. And like one thing I work with teams a lot on is the accountability piece, which, one of the biggest drivers of that after spending time in the field is like the one-on-ones, right? And I've been really successful in taking kind of Mike's framework, which is RPA, results pipeline activity, and being like a real stickler for like, that's it, that's all kind of thing. I'm curious on how your organization approaches one-on-ones. Is it, hey, that's it, that's all? Is there more to them? Are they more conversational? Like what does a good one-on-one look like where you guys were?
Yeah. So that's really interesting because we left that meeting. Of course, we talked about the RPA meetings, and it made me reflect on what we do as compared to that framework for a one-on-one. Ours is really similar. And I think generally speaking, like at the principal level, that's what it should be. It should be the accountability piece, reviewing the pipeline, making sure that the activity is there. And the accountability piece is going to look very different depending upon performance. Ours look very similar. So you are going to review the performance. And if that sales counselor was held back from hitting their numbers, and it doesn't have to be just the sales goal, it could be other key metrics that would lead them to meet with success the next month. We have monthly goals, right? So maybe they hit their sales goal, but they're behind on some of that prospecting that would refill the pipeline. Our managers pay attention to everything, all of those leading indicators. And so they will prepare for that one-on-one by reviewing those things, the full pipeline. So you've got the prospecting, that's going to lead to the traffic, that's going to lead to the appointments, that leads to the sales. They'll review that funnel and see how we're doing, sort of a health check. And they'll review that with the sales counselor just to make sure that there's awareness of where they are and that they're accomplishing the goals that they set out for that year. And then you mentioned, so the pipeline actually being the prospects, the top prospects that we're working with they'll spend a majority of the time after that accountability moment at the top and that health check of the business on. And by the way, like the accountability a lot of times too is like amazing work. What are you doing? What's working for you? Great job. It's accountability can sometimes get a negative rap, and it's not. So then in that prospect review, we're going through, who do you have that you feel is your best opportunity for a sale? And where are they, and what are their next steps, and what's it going to take to get them from here to across the line? And then, of course, any good one-on-one is going to have some action items coming out of it, like, hey, here's what we're going to do next. So that work continues when you leave. And so we do focus on that too, but it's really a deep dive. And so there is accountability. But I would say if you were to compare it to Mike Weinberg's model and what he shared, just by the nature of our business, we do spend a little bit more time coaching, I would say, in our one-on-ones than he would prescribe in his book or in that session.
So you guys are bringing in a little more coaching, a little bit of strategy into that one-on-one as well, and making it more of a well-rounded one-on-one sales meeting.
We are. It's longer than what he would have described. That meeting can be quick, and we're not all in that outside sales world where you are in that office setting. They're kind of coming to the manager. The manager's going out to this community, and so they may drive for 30 minutes, or if it's a geographically vast area, an hour to get to that salesperson. And so, they're spending some time and making it a good valuable spend of windshield time. But we are pretty focused on training and development. We do spend quite a bit of time on that with our sales team. And it could be role playing too. I mean, it's not like it might just be when you're talking through the prospects that they were having trouble getting them back on the phone, and we go, well, what did the call sound like? Or they couldn't get them to agree to next step. So what did it sound like when you asked? And then you might just go back and forth. So they're pretty good coaches.
Yeah, I love that. It's one of the things I'm always pushing for is like, hey, we have to be involved. We have to be selling with our people. We have to be like coaching and running through these things with our people, because that's probably our greatest asset, right? Is our ability to help them unlock the belief that they can do more or achieve more.
That is where they add the greatest value, is in the team with their people. Yeah. They're not administrators. What? They shouldn't be like strapped to a desk behind a computer. Yes. And they don't want to be either, by the way. Like that doesn't charge up a sales manager. That really drains them, if anything. So.
Yeah. I always say if your sales manager wants to be behind their desk all day, you probably got the wrong person, the wrong seat.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
What does you kind of said something cool where you guys have this, it's almost like your uniform days. You just flip the days of the week and said like on Fridays we got our training.
Yeah.
Like is that all role playing? Is that various things? Like I
would say it's probably like the same principle that at Cintas. We started on Monday. Like so ours there was 7:15 on Monday morning. And that was because that was kicking off our week. Well, here we get a ton of traffic and customers on the weekend. So it's really no different. We are just kicking off and trying to get the teams fired up going into their busiest time. And so, yes, it is training. So it's, I think you've probably been a part of plenty of sales meetings, and so have I. There is nothing worse than going in and talking about a bunch of administrative stuff that could have been shared via email. And so we really avoid that. We have what we call an administrative minute. You get about a minute. And so those administrative pieces, if it can go into an email, if you put an email, that's where it lives. But the pieces that you might talk about there would be more time sensitive, things that really need to be discussed with the team, but it's quick. Of course, there's always the celebration in sales practices. So we celebrate sales, celebrate success. We want to reward what we want repeated there. And then we will have the administrative piece will be short, but then we spend a lot of time training and then getting reps in. So practicing, collaborating with our peers. Some really good buy-in to the sales process happens there when they see the people who are meeting with great success, utilizing the sales process so well. And then there's that learning through osmosis from their peers, grabbing the way that, for example, Kyle says something and then taking and applying it themselves, sharing of stories. So it's a valuable spend of time. It is one time a week where we reinvest in our skill set. No different than athletes, right? Like the hitting the ball every day, right? That's what we're doing on Fridays.
What is that? Is it an hour, 2 hours? Like, what's the time frame there?
It varies. We try to not go over 90 minutes. So it could be a 60-minute practice to an hour or an hour and a half. You really don't want to go past that. You lose them. If it could be an hour, that's ideal. You lose the team. We're salespeople. Shiny up. Like, we don't want to, you can't like get us sitting in one spot that long.
Squirrel.
So you gotta keep it moving, high energy.
So I've probably worked with it's somewhere between 60 and 70 companies now. 60, 70 sales leaders. The energizing and equipping idea of sales meetings and not making it just admin and numbers and all this stuff is actually probably where I see most leaders in the sectors I serve struggle. What things have you done to like equip your managers to be able to equip your salespeople through these training meetings? Like how, like most of them just struggle with like what do I do? Yeah, I want to get them energized. I want to get them equipped, but like I actually don't know what to do do that.
Well, I think that's often the problem, isn't it? Like we know we should do something, but we don't know how. I would say that applies to salespeople too. And so the first place is making sure that it's super clear and the expectation is there that sales managers understand that two of your big jobs are keeping your team motivated or motivating them, and then training them. So training and development, like those are two of the big buckets of sales management. So it starts with just making sure that they understand that when you're interviewing, making sure that you're assessing that that's something that either they're capable of doing or that you could train them to do. And then when it comes to actual like practical application, how do we go about that as an organization? I think it's really important to have some support there for your sales leaders. When it comes to training, it can be, we talked about getting strapped behind a desk. If they were creating training content all day, they could easily get sucked into their computer. So we do provide some support in that way for our sales managers. We'll provide, for example, one sales practice video or a sales training for them to use a month. And included in that would be the training component with just a revisiting of our sales process, one of the pieces of it, and then an example of what a good job looks like. And then, the other thing is the framework. So just ensuring that everybody understands, first of all, every Friday we have a practice, it's a non-negotiable. So it's not an option. We're doing it every Friday. And then we do provide a structure for them. So I actually just created a worksheet and it tells them exactly broken down by the time. You spend 5 minutes building trust and rapport, quick little fun, icebreaker, whatever it is. And then we're going to go over sales results. It outlines it. So they can follow that outline to ensure that it's an impactful practice. You just try to make it rinse and repeat. And then we've got a great content library. I mean, I think if you're a good sales organization, one of the big pieces of it is having the training there in place that they're not having to recreate the wheel, but that they can reach into a library and grab that content and use it. And so that's what a lot of them will do. We do have training. We've got e-learning. We've got training content that we've created and put on a blog. So there's plenty of resources for our sales managers to go and grab the training content and pull a little piece of it out, focus on that with their teams and go. And I'll tell you what they often do is it's from one-on-ones. I don't know when you're out in the field, if you see the same, but usually if you're doing one-on-ones, you're quickly coming up with themes of things that need to be addressed or worked on, challenges that the team is having across the board. When you start picking up on those themes, that's your inspiration for a Friday practice. It might be overcoming objections, in this market and in the housing market, although I will tell you, rates are so exciting, lowest they've been since 2022. But for a long time here over the last couple of years, affordability has been a challenge. So we've had plenty of practices on financing and solving that for customers and selling using financing. It's often picked how they do it. They're going to listen to their teams and one-on-ones. They're going to figure out what they need, and then they're going to build their practice around that. I do think it takes practice and time to figure out the structure of the role playing and the practice portion of it, like depending on the team size. If you don't think about those things in advance, you can totally botch a practice. or it could get boring, repetitive. So that takes a little practice and know-how. We also share a lot. A good team is going to do that. So again, not recreating the wheel. Sales managers will reach down, grab another one's hand and pull them up. Like they'll give them, hey, here's a bunch of practices that worked well for me. So we've come together in some meetings where we'll gather every quarter, and sales managers have brought all of their practices and shared it with one another. So those are some of the ways that we solve for that gap that you were describing, which is it's not always innate how to run a practice, how to do the training and coaching. So we do also provide some training. We'll do train the trainer type training as well. But hopefully that answers your question. I would say that the majority of how we do it is making sure that there's plenty of content and resources for them to pull from, providing some for them as a little lift, and then providing them some structure for that meeting. And then, like I said, the rest of it will kind of come from their time in the field with their team.
No, I think that's, and I think a lot of listeners will be like, well, Emily, that's great, but we don't have the support. We can't afford the support, whatever. But I think that what Emily just walked through, like the concept is so true, where it's like, well, take the 30 minutes to think through like what a good meeting structure would be, right? And then utilize other resources out there to build your library, right? Like books, podcasts, YouTube videos. You could do something like
do most of the companies you work with have a sales process? Like not really.
It's the goal is by the time they're done working with me, we have a sales process. It's a big part, right? But no, so yeah, like documenting your sales process and working off of that. I think tools like I've said it many times, Sales Gravy University. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a massive catalog of videos and keynotes and micro clips and role-playing suggestions. It's like, I think like if you're saying, hey, I don't have time or I don't have the resources, it's like, hey, like maybe think about time blocking over the next month or so, an hour or two to start building that library so you can start running them. And then,
I don't think if someone's saying they don't have time, and I get it, I don't think that ever really solves itself. Like we all have the same 24 hours, and really most sales leaders and business leaders are busy. I think moving past that, and I think anyone can be successful and accomplish these things with prioritization, saying what is the most important thing. And I'm sure there's 1,000 important things, but if that's important, prioritize it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but taking that first step and providing something that can be a rinse and repeat for sales managers. Like I said, I was surprised when I first got in the role as a sales manager that there wasn't a template for a sales practice. It was really just like everyone was kind of making it up on their own. But when you do that, now you've got, call it 18 sales leaders out there, all recreating the wheel every week. That time you can get back. That's a lot of time that you can get back simply by providing a very basic template. And I bet you could chat GPT or Google today and find one that you could just download. Maybe you spend a couple bucks. Like you said, there's so many training courses out there for sales that you can purchase if you need to, or take the basic framework again. These days with, chat GPT, I bet you could create one pretty quickly. But I think anything that I would guess that you would vet, Kyle, but there's a lot out there that can be used that is better than nothing and would save the team time and give those managers time back to spend with their team. So yeah.
Yeah, it's any experienced sales director, VP, trainer, author, whoever you speak to, right? Like kind of hone in on the same things. It's you got to spend time in the field with your people selling. You gotta have a good accountability structure with, one of the big things we work with on teams is to have accountability, you need visibility. Yeah. It's really hard to have accountability if you can't see what people are doing and how they're doing. That's it. Right. But have accountability. Yeah, it's nearly impossible. It really is. And then third is you got to train your people. And one of the best places to do that is a sales team meeting where you're energizing and equipping them to sell more, to sell
That's
better.
right.
Right? It's
That's
like
right.
those three things, like those are your priorities.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, hey, like what's truly important and making time for it, doesn't matter who you talk to. That sales meeting, that training, equipping piece is going to be in pretty much everyone's top three of the most important things a sales manager should be doing.
And if these companies have a top rep, going out and shadowing them for a day, or just spending time, for a couple of appointments, or or interviewing them, like they could build a sales process from that. Like, what are the best of the best doing, and sort of putting a pen to paper on that. The other thing is obviously benchmarking. Go out and network with some other industry leaders and ask them what they're doing. People are generally pretty happy to help. So, again, I just am a big fan of, stealing shamelessly and not recreating the wheel. That's a great way to keep yourself busy. Go get some starting foundation from someone and build off that.
No, that's great advice. I'm curious because, like I said, a lot of the companies I'm working with are, you got your manager, your director, your VP, all rolled into kind of one role. So a question I often get from whether it's business owners or presidents, it's like, you've come in, Kyle, you've helped us understand what our sales manager should be measuring for rep success to drive revenue as a group. But how do I, as the owner or the president, know my sales manager is doing a good job? And I kind of see you potentially in that seat with your directors of, you guys are probably looking at that. You're not just looking at the sales reps, but you're also looking at the managers. And like, how do you actually, what mechanisms or things do you look at to see, hey, like this manager's excelling or struggling or, could do more?
Yep. Well, we have some sort of like key leading indicators of success that we manage. And I think, so typically we look at sort of that handful. I think most any sales organization is likely doing the same. And then finding a place, you mentioned earlier, visibility, finding a place where the leadership, not just us, those that are, working with the sales managers, but let the sales managers see it. Give them visibility to their own metrics and how they're measuring against those. And those should be the things that lead to success for the sales team. So, what the sales team is striving for should roll up to that sales manager. And that should be what you're measuring. That's generally, what you're going to get success with if you've got to measure it. And so some sort of visibility live, not just a once a quarter report, ideally not even just like a once a month report. If you can come up with some dashboards where a sales manager can get in there and see their performance today against this month, or whatever their time period is that they're watching this week, their weekly organization, against those sales goals and those metrics. So like most organizations, probably, how many, if you're business to business, it's going to be those meetings. So those appointments, how many of those have you had versus what do we need to have to meet with success? For us, it's going to be people in the door, right? And then, of course, how's the team doing on that prospecting, the thing that's going to fill the pipeline? And then we want to make sure that, we're doing a great job of following up with customers, that we're aggressively following up. That is a really fast way to kill a sale, is not following up. We do all the hard work, we meet with them, and then if you don't follow up, somebody else will, and they'll get the sale. So, keeping an eye on those types of things. And so we do, we'll have dashboards that they can see live. It's also just keeping in mind that a sales manager has, depending on the industry and the business, a lot of team members. So you want to make sure that they have an easy way to get the visibility, that they don't have to go through 50 clicks, a deep dive. Like, you want them to be able to quickly get to what is their team doing, or maybe what's slipping, what's working, where are we getting progress, so that they know where to focus their time. So I think not only just visibility, but it's got to be visibility to the right things and easy visibility. I know there are a lot of companies that are heavy on reports. I think reports are great. I prefer dashboards. that are a bit more agile. So, you can change the time frames you're viewing so you can monitor. You can look back and say, have we made progress or not? And then you can diagnose why. That helps you understand what you should be focused on. So I prefer something more dynamic like a dashboard over a report, but there are some places where reports have their place. But I think that easy visibility is important, and letting them diagnose on their own so that they can solve quickly.
So a lot of the metrics you track, let me make sure I got this right. A lot of the metrics you track for your sales managers are essentially the sales reps metrics rolled up into one metric that represents almost the sales manager's ability to coach or train them in that aspect or drive that behavior.
Yeah, because the scoreboard, if the scoreboard is only the sales results, you can just go down the wrong path. It could just lie to you, right? Because in a good market, we look like we're all heroes and we're doing everything right. In a tough market, we feel like we're totally failing. You're swimming in a sea of red, right? Nothing's going well. So you've got to watch those leading indicators to see, are we doing the fundamentals, the basics, the blocking and the tackling that would lead to success, and then celebrate the wins, work on the things where we're lagging, and make sure you're getting progress, and celebrate that with the team too, especially in a tough market when, if they are seeing some red on the scoreboard. So yes, we watch not just the sales results, but all of those key metrics that if we're doing those things, those fundamentals, then we are going to meet with success, and we'll get more than our fair share when the market turns. We'll at least get our fair share now. So we do watch those things and make sure that we are doing the blocking and tackling, the follow-up. And then there are a few probably metrics that aren't exactly a roll-up from the sales counselor. But for the most part, like division, business type metrics, but for the most part, I'd say that they're a reflection of what their team is doing. And after all, that is their job, right? That's how they get their results, is through the team.
Absolutely. And what does that process look like on your end when you are spotting a trend in the wrong direction with the manager, or maybe the manager scores good, but you can see it within a rep, right? Once you kind of do that skip level observation of what's going on, right? It's like the manager scores green, but maybe within that green there's one rep that is red hidden in there. Like what does that process look like?
Yeah. I think the key is to have some standard check-ins in place times when I told you sales managers have their health checks in that one-on-one. Well, a director, I've got a wonderful director and myself, like she's got to have that health check in place for her sales managers too. And so that's one way to address it. You're going to be looking and sort of doing that deep dive at that health checkpoint with that sales manager. And when you're looking through, you're going to spot those opportunities. And that's the time where you might address that. For us, it looks like a meeting often. So we'll have that sort of midpoint check where we're evaluating our success and how are we performing versus where we need to go to achieve our goal that month. And, for others, I'm sure it looks like a one-on-one, but it's a little different than the one-on-one with the sales counselor where, the sales manager's got a bunch of sales counselors and that's how they're driving through their results. So looking both at a high level at their metrics to understand trends with their team and how things are going, and support them. They're running so fast and hard, that it is a support to them to say, hey, want to make sure you have your eye on this, want to make sure that you saw this. So sometimes it's just pointing things out. And then other times, like I said, it's a good thing to have some standard formalized meetings where you are doing that health check for the sales manager too and providing that feedback at that.
That's amazing. What's I guess what would be your director's cadence of meeting with sales managers? Is that biweekly? Is that monthly?
Yeah, I mean it is often, and it just looks different. It depends on so it's not just through one type of a meeting. We spend a lot of time in the field. So we do have that once a month check where we are doing a formal meeting, and we'll have leadership on this meeting, and we're talking through, again, where their team is versus their goal, and not just sales, but all of the leading metrics. And then, talking through how we can support those team members to achieve their goals, like what they came here to do. It's important to be in the field to have your finger on the pulse too. And so we do spend a lot of time in the field with our sales managers and their sales team. And that's in preparation for those visits and that time in the field. We're in the system every day. I mean, we're in the system every day. As any leader would be, making sure that we understand what's going on, where opportunities exist. But then beyond that, of course, when you're in the field, you can see beyond the dashboard. You can see in practically how things are going. The numbers only tell you so much. Even the CRM is only going to tell you so much. So that's the other touch point. Another touch point is that. But then, of course, it's the other things too, right? It might just be an email. It might be a pick up the phone and a phone call. But typically it's that mid-month touch point, and then we've got the time in the field with the sales managers. Those are probably the two big ones.
So if I took that concept back to a lot of people who probably listen to this podcast and clients I'm working with, you would be encouraging, if you're in my seat or a seat like mine, you would be encouraging these presidents and owners that it's probably worthwhile for you to spend time in the field selling.
Absolutely.
With your people. How would you frame the benefit to them? They'd be like, I got 100 things on my plate. I got a sales manager. Why would I go sell or spend time in the field?
Spend time.
Like, shouldn't the manager deal with that?
Yeah. So the managers are like the multiplier. So spending the time with the manager to ensure that they're equipped to get the results through their team, that is time extremely well spent. It's important that they're set up for success. If you ask them, generally they're going to be like, yep, everything's great. Positive sales leader is going to tell you everything's great for the most part. At least the people we hire are pretty positive, optimistic, they're going to solve. So to really understand what's going on, you've got to be out in the business. And that applies to, I don't care what business it is, everyone, everywhere. You've got to be out there. I'm not out there selling with the salespeople. I am sitting alongside them with the sales manager, and I'm really there for the sales manager. I enjoy spending time with the sales team. Man, when I was a sales manager, I loved that job. It's not my job anymore. Now my job is to make sure that the sales managers are supported to get success. And so I will sit and observe. And then afterwards, it's just standard practice. You're going to debrief. So sit and observe a one-on-one, and then afterwards debrief on, where they felt like they met with success, opportunities that there might be progress since the last time we were together, things like that. So it's the finger on the pulse. It helps you also. The other thing is just it is easy at probably at a VP level, director level, if you weren't out there in the field, to lose sight of what's really going on. And so that's just my way of understanding what training is needed, how our standard operating procedures and our sales process are being reinforced and upheld. And what I can do to support both the sales team and the sales managers. And otherwise, you're relying on feedback that it's sort of that inspect what you expect moment. And otherwise, you're relying just on feedback that could be good feedback or not so good feedback. So for me, it's invaluable. It's also, it fills your bucket back up. I mean, it's awesome, right? Like it's awesome to, and it helps you have a healthy appreciation for your sales team, it helps you spot opportunities as well. So I don't think there's a choice. Like, you have to be out there in the field. You have to know what's going on with your business, or you're flying blind. Numbers only say so much, and those can be fiddled with too. The inputs can be manipulated if someone wants to. I'm sure that they can. So you got to be in it. You got to inspect what you expect, and that means getting out there.
I love that.
It's the best part of the job. So beyond everything else, you're missing out if you're not out there seeing the action. But you learn things. That's where we learn. I always learn. Every time I'm in the field, I come back, I'm like, man, that was awesome. And I have a whole laundry list of takeaways. So I highly encourage it.
No, absolutely. I love that. You said that so well. And it makes so much sense. We're getting close on time here, but I did have a question. It was just like, you've kind of gone up the ladder in this organization. You've been up there a long time. You've probably seen a lot of things change. And you, along with some awesome people, have made some really big changes. If you had to reflect back, are there, 1, 2, or 3 things that you're like, we implemented this, or we changed our approach to either how we sold or how our managers managed their sales team, that you're like, those were really key or really good things that we did, and you should explore it in your organization?
We talked earlier about my role and the differences between, sales manager and director and VP and the responsibilities in them. One of the responsibilities of a VP would be to make sure that the systems and structures are in place. And before we had a VP, when I was director at the time, one of the things that we rolled out and that I would encourage every organization to think through is, sales contests, sales rallies. It's an expense, but you get a big ROI. And every year I work hard to show the ROI. I go and I back it up with numbers, and you can prove it. But that motivation is a big piece of my role, making sure that we've got a sales team that is motivated and rewarded. And that's a big part of our culture. And I think that you'll find many successful organizations that is a big part of their culture. Salespeople work really, really hard, and they work really hard for the money, and never forget it. That's what they're here for. They don't just want to be friends. They do, but they want to make money, and they want to have fun. And so they want recognition. They want pats on the back. And some of them, depending on the salesperson, what the pats on the back and the recognition, they want to know that they are providing value to the company. And they want to contribute. So they need that recognition, sometimes even more than the money. That might be their motivating factor. And so putting those things in place to support the sales managers in getting success and the divisions in getting success. So a sales contest, a sales rally, that moment at the beginning of the year that kicks off and gets the sales team fired up. And then something to reward their tremendous, efforts, their Herculean efforts to go. So those top performers, you want to retain them too, right? So having the right people on the bus matters. That was a big culture shift, I would say, for us. And I think it's one of the markers of some of the top world-class sales organizations is that sales contest, that President's Club contest, whatever it is, whatever they call it. So that would be one of the big shifts that I saw for us as a company. In fact, you look behind me, there's a world-class hand, that's our sales rally, and then our huddle banner on the other side. But so yes, our world-class sales rally, that's from 2024, that hand right there. It's we theme them. So that was a sports type of a rally themed one. And it was a blast. We have fun. We do training. We celebrate results. We have a big dinner and a party. And it's something that people look forward to every year. So that was a big one. I think the other big one that was just before my time was the sales process. And these seem like basic things, but they're big deals. So formalizing the sales process, ensuring that the training, that onboarding was in place, and then ensuring that the systems and structure was in place to reinforce it. So making sure that at Friday practices, we're consistently reinforcing the sales process. It's training on the fuse process, not some book, not something else that caught a sales manager's eye, but we're going to go back and train on those basics, the fundamentals. So the batting and the throwing. And so that is easy for sales managers probably to get bored of because they do it over and over and over again. Or you could think that it's lost its luster, but we reinforce that that's what we're training on. So I think a solid sales process and the structure to how we reinforce it and train it and onboard it that was a really big moment for our company too, that really transitioned us, I would say, from sort of like a construction company that sells homes to, world-class sales organization. Those are, I would say, two of those big moments for us.
That's amazing. That's so cool to hear. And it, I have the privilege of seeing a lot of organizations. It's the one thing I love about what I do. But those two things are two things that most companies don't have in place. So I think that's super practical for our listeners to just hear that and be like, hey, okay, like that's probably something we should take a look at and start thinking about. While you were going through that, I was just going through my basement storage room and picturing all the sales rally pieces that I still have, because they actually hold some sentimental value, because they were the times that I was appreciated and got recognition for the value that I brought.
Sure.
So I totally resonate with that. Like they do matter. And
by the way, bring the spouses. Like if there's partners, spouses, partners, bring them, invite them. I remember the first time we did, and it was a part of my opening, was to say thank you, because sales is really hard. It is a really hard gig. And the only way we get to do it and do it well is with the support of our significant other. And so recognizing them and bringing them in on that and letting them see the culture, it's really, really important. And by the way, that contributes to retention, and motivating that. We had spouses who were like talking on Facebook to each other saying like, I'm pushing my wife or my husband to win so that we can get back on that contest together. So they'll be a part of motivating the team. So it's important. It's really important. That'd be my last add-on for that. Bring the spouses. Bring the support system. Bring them in.
That's hilarious, because that's what my wife says is the biggest thing she misses from me going out on my own. She's like, where are those free trips?
That's right. That's right.
Right?
We love it. It's memories. It becomes like a club. And once you go, you want to go again and again. And the spouses do too. Again, it's like what motivates them to get on that trip. It's not just they're making those top performers, they're making the money. They don't need a financial prize. What they want and need is that recognition on that trip, to be a part of that club, to go see each other again, to have the memories and have the fun and be recognized by leadership, and to be able to rub elbows and talk with leadership and know that they know them. So yes, I think I'm a huge believer and fan of the contest trip. I am.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much for doing this, Emily. I've had the privilege of chatting with you many times and seeing some of the things up close and personal on how you run your organization, your sales team, and I've talked to your people that report into you and hear the glowing reviews they have of you. So it's been a pleasure to get to know you as well. So thank you for coming today.
It's always my pleasure. You got it, Kyle. Anytime.
Awesome. Well, everyone, that's it for this week. Really appreciate you tuning in. And as always, as Emily mentioned, get in the trenches and go sell with your team. Cheers till next time.